number of guns and the amount of ammunition each one could fire. With
Russia is
Ukrainian
just
troops
not
suffering
stopping.
almost constant bombardment, the US decided
Hey guys, it's the Loud Guys, and today I am going to react to deadly weapons that USA is sending to Ukraine. But first of all, let me clear why Parvin is not with me in this video is because he is not at all well. He's unable to speak, he's unable to talk since days, and that's why only I am going to do this video just for today. So yeah, I'll get well soon. Comment him to get well soon. But yes, talking about this video, deadly weapons that USA is sending to Ukraine. So we all know that Ukraine and Russia war is like continuing since a year. I guess by now it's a year that this war is continuing, and daily, daily we see news that okay, this many people died, Ukraine is suffering from this, and Russia is doing this. They are, dropping the bombs and nuclear weapons and whatnot is happening in that two countries like Ukraine and Russia. And this is actually saddening. This news is really saddening because it's a year that this war is going on. But yeah, this is what it is. We can't do anything sitting over here. So yes, now the US is sending weapons to Ukraine. So we all know that how big, how well equipped with weapons and well technology developed USA is. We have watched so many of USA's videos that how many weapons or missiles or planes, defense planes USA have. So we just don't have to even think about it that okay, USA will be sending to these deadly weapons to any country that needs it. So yes, let's see that what will be there in this video.
You don't need me to tell you that misinformation in the news is at an all-time high, especially when it comes to topics with huge global implications like the conflict in Ukraine. One of the hardest parts about researching topics, like today's video on weapons the US is sending to Ukraine, is being able to find sources untainted by bias or by their own financial motivations, which is why I've started using Ground News. Ground News is the world's first news comparison platform, and I mean that you can literally compare news, like with this article about the US shipping weapons stored in Israel to Ukraine, where you can see that the headlines are subtly different depending on the outlet, with right-leaning sources using terms like quietly shipping or secret stockpile, while left-leaning ones make no mention of it being quiet or a secret. You also get a breakdown of what type of news sources are covering a story, making it easier to spot media biases, like how that same story about stockpiles of weapons in Israel has a 57% right-leaning reporting coverage versus just 19% from left-leaning sources. Led by a former NASA engineer, Ground News is a small team of independent media outsiders concerned about the future of news, and they're on a mission to make sure the world is well-informed, where it's easy for readers to think freely about the issues of our times. So if you're looking for a better way to stay informed about current events around the world, check out Ground News by going to ground.news/infographics. Since Russia invaded Ukraine back in February, the US has sent a literal mountain of lethal aid to the Ukrainian military. While support has largely gone to the Ukrainian army, the country's Air Force and Navy have also gotten a huge helping hand, totaling almost $20 billion as of November 2022. Let's take a look at some of the weapon systems the US has sent to Ukraine so far. The war has frequently proven that being part of a tank crew is the most dangerous job on the battlefield, and for a good reason. The US has sent tons of anti-tank weaponry to Ukraine, with thousands of armored vehicles flooding the Ukrainian countryside and little armor to face the Russians. The Ukrainian military needed a big helping hand to deal with them. One of the most famous anti-tank weapons is the Javelin. The Javelin anti-armor missile system has been a mainstay of U.S. forces since the mid-1990s. Part of the reason it's so effective is due to its ability to be a fire-and-forget weapon, while also attacking its target from the top down. Because it is fire and forget, the operator can quickly run away once the missile leaves the tube to avoid enemy counterfire. This is because the missile will continue tracking the target once it's locked onto it. The top-down attack feature allows the operator to attack the most vulnerable part of a tank, its top armor. Most tanks have their heaviest armor up front, followed by the sides, rear, and lastly the underbelly and top of the tank. Because the top is much weaker, a strong attack there will likely cause a catastrophic kill. A catastrophic kill is when the entire tank blows up and is completely destroyed rather than just being damaged, meaning enemy forces would be able to repair it later on. These attack platforms have proven themselves to be very effective, so the US military has sent over 8,500 of them to Ukraine. Now it's important to note that it's unclear if 8,500 means CLUs or disposable missile tubes. This is important because the brains of the Javelin is the Command Launch Unit or CLU. This attaches to a disposable missile tube that when combined makes the weapon system up. Regardless, Ukraine has gotten a ton of these. The U.S. has not only been sending Javelins, but also 38,000 other anti-armor systems. While it's unclear what these could be, more likely, these are AT-4 rockets, used as the replacement to the Vietnam-era Law for decades. The AT-4 is a mainstay of man-portable anti-armor firepower. Its simple use-it-and-lose-it design makes it a simple but effective weapon system for engaging light-armored vehicles, buildings, bunkers, and anything else a soldier needs to blow up from a distance. While AT-4s are not a good alternative to Javelins for taking out tanks, they are a great force multiplier for the hundreds of thousands of citizen soldiers Ukraine has recruited into its National Guard. These troops were being thrown into combat, often without a lot of training, at the beginning of the war. Putting this simple but effective weapon system in their hands makes them a force multiplier and boosts their confidence on the battlefield. Another great confidence booster has been the huge amount of artillery and artillery shells the U.S. has sent over. After Ukraine repulsed the initial invasion and the Russians pivoted to eastern Ukraine, the war became a war of artillery. Numerous observers have noted that the Russian army blasts their artillery day and night without end.
Yes,
on the other hand,
true.
Ukrainian artillery has been literally outgunned by both number of guns and the amount of ammunition each one could fire.
Russia
With
is
Ukrainian
just
troops
not
suffering
stopping.
almost constant bombardment, the U.S. decided to give them some tools to help even the playing field. As part of its comprehensive aid package, the U.S. has sent 142 155mm guns and 36 105mm guns, along with over 1 million shells to feed them. The U.S. sent more heavy artillery systems because the Ukrainians needed longer-range artillery. Since older Soviet artillery systems did not have the range of modern Russian equipment, the Russians could move outside the effective range of those systems and blast away at them. With heavy American artillery, Russian guns can no longer shoot away with impunity, since now they risk counterfire from a donated M777 howitzer. Another artillery system that's been in the news lately has been the 38 high-mobility artillery rocket systems donated to Ukraine. These systems, known as HIMARS for short, are
HIMARS.
revolutionary weapons. Link 16 is one of the most common data links that the U.S. military uses to send and receive encrypted data over a secure pathway. It's unbreakable and allows a free flow of communication without fear of being knocked out or intercepted. While
that's
mostly a
great.
Navy system, other branches have started using it, like the Marine Corps. This is important because the HIMARS was the first Link 16 capable mobile rocket system the U.S. ever built. This matters because Ukrainian defenders on the land, sea, or air who are uplink can send data to the firing units. Instead of a cumbersome patchwork of different networks and communication paths between other units or branches, Link 16 allows multiple units over a wide area to build a near instantaneous fire control solution.
And
With
that
that
is
data,
applied
the
to
HIMARS
Ukraine.
system
It's
can
a big
attack
thing.
Russian troops anytime, anywhere, in real time within its range. With the huge number of troops involved, the U.S. also sent a ton of ammunition to the Ukrainian army. Since February, the U.S. has sent over 104 million rounds of small arms ammunition. As we've talked about before, the
Million.
Ukrainians use a wide range of weapons dating back to World War II to more modern weapons we're used to seeing on a 21st century battlefield. We should be clear that most World War II weapons go to National Guard units. The bulk of their military is armed with modern equipment. The breakdown of the ammunition types is unclear. Most likely, it's 7.62 by 39 and 5.45 by 39, which are the calibers for AK-47s and AK-74s respectively. These two rifles make up the bulk of the current small arms inventory of Ukraine, so these are the most likely calibers. Other Soviet ammunition types used for their machine guns have likely come from Eastern European stocks. But the U.S. did have large inventories of arms and ammo for the Afghan army, which is where our next weapon systems come from. Among the mix of ordnance, the U.S. sent 20 Mi-17 Hind attack helicopters to the Ukrainian Air Force. The last time we checked, this was still a Russian-made attack helicopter. It ended up in the U.S. inventory because the U.S. purchased a bunch of these for the Afghan military. These were being refurbished in the United States, but after the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban government, these helicopters were no longer needed, so the U.S. sent them back to Ukraine. This is the perfect solution for the seemingly useless surplus of helicopters, as many Ukrainian helicopter pilots trained on similar Soviet legacy platforms. This is the main reason why the U.S. has not flooded Ukraine with F-35s and other aircraft, because it would take years to train Ukrainian pilots to fly them. Another interesting weapon the U.S. has sent includes 45 T-72B main battle tanks. While this has been a mainstay on the Ukrainian and Russian side, the U.S. has never fielded this legacy Soviet gear. And while you might think the U.S. brought some home from its 2 invasions of Iraq, you'd be mistaken. As part of a deal with Eastern European countries to empty their Soviet stocks and receive Western equipment, the Czech Republic donated its reserve tanks to Ukraine. However, these tanks had not been retrofitted with modern gun sights, night vision, or fire control computers. These upgrades and many more had to be done in the Netherlands before shipping them to Ukraine. In total, the Czechs donated 90 tanks to be refurbished, and the US funded half the cost, which gives the figure of 45 T-72s. Ukrainian air defenses have also gotten a laundry list of early Christmas presents. Probably the most potent air defense system the US has sent has been 8 National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems. NASAMS are arguably the world's most potent ballistic missile defense system. Due to their high cost, the US only has a select few of these guarding the skies over Washington, D.C., and there's a reason why they cost so much. It doesn't matter how high, low, or fast a missile is, the NASAMS can shoot it down. U.S. Air Force testing proved it was the best anti-air defense system the service had ever operated. Gifting these to Ukraine has been a blessing since during their first day in action, the NASAMS fired 10 missiles and brought down 10 Russian ballistic missiles. Another equally deadly but less sexy anti-air system is the good old-fashioned Stinger missile. This weapon system has resulted in Russian service members seeing their helicopters and aircraft knocked out of the sky at an alarming rate. In fact, Russia has lost so many aircraft that the fear of losing many more has rendered the Russian Air Force combat ineffective in Ukraine. This is because the U.S. has sent over 1,600 Stinger missiles. Because of this, any bush, building, or tree could turn one of Russia's prized fighter planes into scrap metal. The U.S. has not forgotten about the Ukrainian Navy. Arguably, the most shocking part about this war is the fact that Ukraine is beating the world's third largest navy without a navy. After the Russians illegally annexed Crimea, they seized the bulk of the Ukrainian Navy. Once the invasion started, the remaining ships in the Mykolaiv region were scuttled by their crews to prevent their capture by the rapidly advancing Russian army. Now, totally without a navy, Ukraine has still managed to punch back through the use of long-range ballistic missiles. In March, the Ukrainians damaged or sunk 3 Russian amphibious ships in port. In April, they sunk the Russian flagship Moskva with Neptune anti-ship missiles. While the U.S. provided neither of these weapons, the U.S. has provided 2 Harpoon anti-ship missile batteries that could be used. The U.S. also sent over 58 coastal patrol boats. These are likely the now-retired Mark VI patrol craft serving the waterways of Iraq and the Arabian Gulf. These potent attack craft can move fast and punch well above their weight. But what is more interesting than that are the unmanned surface vessels. In the DoD report, there's a small section that lists an undefined number of unmanned coastal defense vessels. Currently, the U.S. Navy does not employ any unmanned surface craft in its fleet. However, the Navy has been experimenting with them for years. Perhaps wanting to test out what they could really do, the U.S. donated what they have developed so far to Ukraine. If they have, these craft might have already been used in combat. Back in October, unmanned surface vessels attacked the Russian fleet inside its home port of Sevastopol. The new Russian flagship and a minesweeper were damaged by the suicide boats. Ukraine never admitted where they'd gotten these attack craft from, but they were likely of U.S. origin. All the items mentioned in this video are just a tiny part of the vast amounts of weapons and equipment sent by the U.S. to Ukraine. We've not even touched on the huge number of different UAVs, other anti-air defenses, and radar systems. We also have yet to discuss the enormous numbers of mundane but equally important equipment like mobile hospitals, generators, body armor, and light armored vehicles. So watch out for another video explaining part 2 of U.S. aid to Ukraine.
This video shows that how much USA is helping to Ukraine in this war. Like seriously, this war is going on since a year up till now, and it was like that it's a war, and how many arms and ammunitions you require to fight till this much time is really like hilarious. And USA is helping Ukraine by this much time. This is seriously a heads up to us, because we know that how well equipped US is, so US will definitely help Ukraine or any country that needs it. But at first, we used to think that Russia is really a big country, and how Ukraine will be able to fight with Russia and what will happen. But no, USA made it happen and made it little easy, at least for Ukraine to at least stand in the war and fight against Russia. But yeah, how many things are required in a war, and a war which is going on since this much time, like arms and ammunitions, weapons, then guns, missiles, tanks, field tanks, and helicopters, boats, and what not you require. And USA is sending all these things to Ukraine, and in a lot of quantity. Of course, there's a war, and there's a lot of people, a lot of army that requires this much weapons, and USA is supplying all this to Ukraine. So yeah, this is a big help that USA is providing to Ukraine, and that's why this is the big reason why that Ukraine is able to sustain in a war till this much time. So yeah, this was really a knowledgeable video. And yes, we know that Russia is just not stopping. Russia literally wants to win this war anyhow, but yes, Ukraine is also not giving up on this. So yes, that's a big thing. But yes, we seriously hope that this thing will sort out soon and this war is will come to an end really soon. So yes, this was a really knowledgeable video. And how did you find out this video? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share and subscribe to the channel. Bye.